Hey everybody, this is Brett with the Indie Comics Dispatch, and broadcasting from an undisclosed location deep within the Milky Way galaxy, this is Broadcast from the Dispatch. Hey everybody, welcome to Broadcast from the Dispatch. I'm excited. We were originally supposed to be off this week, but we're not. So we're filling in this week. I'm actually back from vacation, and my wife is out of town, and so it's actually a really great thing that I'm going to be able to talk to some adults this evening versus just my kids. So I am beyond grateful. Hey Stacy, how you doing, man? Glad you're out there watching. Juneteenth presentation out. Yeah, man. It's coming up. Lots of great cons coming up. There are a couple great cons coming up for Juneteenth. Virtuous Con, give them a shout out. It's a free con you can attend online. It's happening Juneteenth this weekend. I did want to start this show before we get to our guests. We have two great guests tonight. Both been on the show before, but I do want to shout out one of our reward tiers on for our Kickstarter, the Friend of the Dispatch tier. And I'm going to get some of these names wrong. I know I am, even though I'm just saying the first names. I'm sorry. I want to thank Dan, Danny, Steve, Heather, Jake, Jonathan, who's going to be on the show in a minute, Omar, Jason, Andre, Madeline, Morgan, Blake, Quentin, Jibba, Ben, Dennis, William, One Sheep Press, Unlikely Hero Studio, Keith and Aaron, Orion, and Valerie. Thank you guys. You supported the Indie Comics Dispatch Kickstarter at the Friend of the Dispatch level. Your names are going on the website, linked to whatever URL you want it linked to. We'll get that on going on very soon because reward surveys went out yesterday. If you are watching and you haven't seen that reward survey cross your mailbox yet, check it out. It's there. The sooner you respond, the sooner we can get stuff out. So we are grateful for that. A couple other things. We have filed articles of incorporation to be a nonprofit entity within the state of Georgia. That's step number 2, kind of, in our process of becoming a federally recognized 501c3. So you start at the state level and you work your way up. And then from there, once Georgia approves us, we have a few things to do, and then we get to file for federal recognition as a 501c3 organization. So that is coming. The process has begun. And so we're doing that. We've also picked our board. I'm not going to say who our board of trustees yet. Every nonprofit should have a board of trustees that helps govern and keep them true to the mission. So we have selected individuals from across the indie comic spectrum to make sure that we are well represented on our board and that they are not pushovers. They will keep us in check and keep the mission of Indie Comics Dispatch running. Let me see. Let me check my notes. In July, there's no more. There's not no more. We're taking a break in July. Season 1 ends the end of this month, the end of June. Taking July off. Season 2 of Broadcast from the Dispatch will be hitting beginning of August. We'll be coming back beginning of August with a whole new lineup of shows, planning that out, shipping Kickstarter rewards all during July. And so stay tuned for season 2. Speaking of season 2, if you want your comic book cover, say you have a comic book project and you want those covers to be in our season 2 opener, like you just saw for our season 1 opener, we have all sorts of images from Indie Comics. Email us. You can email me at Brett, BRETT, at indiecomicsdispatch.com, and just send us your cover images in high res, and we will get you in there. We will make sure that your comic cover appears in our opener. So again, just email those comic covers to us at Brett, BRETT, at indiecomicsdispatch.com, and we will get it. I think that's all I got. So I'm going to get to our guests. I was so happy that we had an opening in the schedule. Both of these gentlemen have been on the show before, and it's always a fun time. Jonathan is actually going to appear to us in a sunny location. I don't know what that's like, because usually when Jonathan's on the show, it's storming or there's just been a hurricane or something. So, Jonathan Thompson, welcome.
I hope my sun holds up. That'll be my luck.
Yeah. First time you were supposed to be on, you went through a hurricane.
I did.
Second time, I was going through a storm, I think, and now it's sunny in both of our locations. So
yes, as best as it can be.
Yeah,
still too hot, but
yeah.
I can only imagine where you are.
Oh my God! Actually, today wasn't bad. Yesterday was horrible in Georgia. Today there was a breeze, so you take what you can get.
I think we got that today too.
Yeah.
It was welcome. It was funny when you were saying everything, because the first time I came on your show, well, the first time I contacted you was before you were even Indie Comics Dispatch, and I am pretty sure, and I could be corrected if I'm wrong, but I shouldn't be. But the reason I even found you was because I saw Ryan's art, and Ryan was on your show.
Yeah,
and
Ryan was.
I think that is the kind of case there. I think I remember how it happening.
Nice.
Well,
yeah,
makes us Indie Comic Dispatch we're
family, right?
Like, at this point.
Exactly. Well, yeah, we'll get to your first project in a minute. I was going to say something, but I'll save that for a minute.
What a journey it's been since the first time I've been here.
Right. Yeah. So welcoming again another person who's been on the show a few times, Ryan Tavarez. Welcome, Ryan.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
No problem.
Yeah, good to be back. Yeah. Definitely. I remember the early interviews and stuff. The really fast-paced interviews. Those are great. Yeah. And it's been cool to see your guys' channel grow and prosper.
Yeah.
Over the course of last year.
Thank you guys so much. It's been it feels like it's already been a year, and at the same time it feels like, oh my God, it's only been a year. Like
right.
So much has happened. 2020 and COVID and everything just made this past year feel like hell, really, right?
Like 100 years.
Made it feel like a weird one.
Yeah, but a lot of great things happened during the year still, despite everything. So, man, it's great having you both on, and in fact, that's going to be one of my questions when we get there is how you two teamed up. But we will get there. I want to. Savannah is watching on YouTube. She says, "Congratulations on the progress towards 501c3 status." Thank you, Savannah. So let's get there. We'll start with Jonathan first, and then we'll go down to Ryan. And while you guys talk, I'm going to be sharing the stream to various groups. If you're out there watching and you're like, hey, how can I help? Share the stream to your groups, to your profile. Sharing is indeed caring in this case. So do that. Jonathan, tell us about you as a creator. What got you creating comic books?
It was a lot of the slowdown with the pandemic. At the beginning of it, I just started making short kind of anthology pieces, which came together as Tales from the Dead Astronaut. We self-published that thing, got it out there, hand sold, didn't get too far, but we got far enough. And then from there, I just wanted to push things further. So I did Burn Residue through Kickstarter and had a great time with that. And then, I've been sitting there waiting for Ryan to become available because I knew I had something good. A window presented itself, and I'm very thankful that we went through it.
Very cool. Very cool. And if people are interested, tell them just a little bit about Tales from the Dead Astronaut and Burn Residue.
Tales from the Dead Astronaut is it's an anthology series now. It features a bunch of different stories that kind of jump around. It's very heavy metal. It's very Mobius. It's very out there. It's going to be coming out in September from Source Point Press. September, October, November. So that's pretty exciting. Yeah, it's
exciting.
The little book that we put together and didn't think much of, just that we loved it, and then somebody else loved it too. So it's pretty awesome.
It's a great book and great art in that book too. And
it's just so fun.
It is in a fun size too, or at least the original run. I don't know if
the original. That's an exclusive collector's item now.
Well, there we go.
You have yours.
That's awesome.
That was when it was manila envelopes.
Yeah.
But that was just fun getting a chance to take those stories further.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool. So Source Point Press coming out soon with that.
I guess they should be announcing that very soon.
You kind of told me that behind the scenes at some point.
Yeah,
so I've been hanging on to that.
I know we've been putting it together, and things have been slow in Argentina with George, so we got there though. But it's beautiful. It's crazy. It's a crazy little book.
That's great. Ryan, jump in here. Tell us what got you started as a creator, and what are some of your other projects?
Well, I've just been drawing and making stuff as long as I can remember. Made comics as a kid, never stopped. But in 2015, I started taking it a little more seriously, and really went on a journey to kind of learn each part of the process to making a complete book. And in 2015, one of my goals was to take a book from beginning to end and do every part of it. Writing, thumbnailing, penciling, inking, coloring, lettering, and then actually designing the book itself. And in 2016, January 2016, I released Nomads 0. And it was the beginning of a whole big world. And just recently, in February, I released Volume 1 of Nomads, which collects the first 4 issues. And, along the way, I've been on various other projects, and it's just been kind of a wild ride. And just recently was able to depart into comics full time, and
cool.
And just always wanting to learn and do something new and different, and that's kind of how Jonathan and I got linked up for our upcoming project.
Very cool. Well, let's jump into that right now. A Game of Doubles. Let me pop up. Right there, it's currently on Kickstarter, $2,594, 95 backers, 8 days to go. So you guys are totally within the window to pull this thing off. Tell us about A Game of Doubles. First of all, how did you two find each other as a creative team?
I just followed Ryan's art and I thought it was awesome. And it's funny because you see his Nomads work, and it's so cool, and you would never think, let's have this guy do a tennis comic. But it's so great. It's, this is the first time I'm like seeing or talking to Ryan since I saw the full book, and it's so fucking good. I'm sorry for cursing, but it's great. He knocked it out of the park. I'm glad I went with my instincts and picked the Nomads guy.
The Nomads guy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, for me, I kind of 2020 was a year of kind of discovery for me in terms of trying to find a comic community. That's where I found Indie Comics Dispatch and Brett and Ty and Jonathan, and just really trying to speak with other creators, because in a year where we were all really isolated, I just really wanted to try to find people who did what I do, mm-hmm. and ended up kind of linking up with Jonathan. We had talked a little bit back and forth about maybe just collaborating on something. I had gotten, I'm pretty sure I gotten the Tales, your anthology series, and we had talked about doing something horror based. But I was like dead in the middle of trying to wrap up Nomads. And so a little bit later, I saw that Jonathan had Burn Residue that was coming out, backed that, got that, read it, loved it. And, was just kind of, I was so blown away by it. Like, I was so surprised and happy with it that I was like, I basically did like a little short review. It was just trying to try some stuff out. And we ended up kind of reconnecting again. And he pitched the series to me. And like right away, I was just like, yep, like I want to do this. This sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So Jonathan, let me hear the pitch, because I'm imagining this. You guys are talking and you're like, so I have a comic book about tennis. Yeah. I want to pitch you. And for Ryan to go, yes, tennis. Let's hear the pitch.
So it's about Jackson Teach, who is a former super famous, really great all-star tennis pro. And the story takes place 18 years after the game that was the end of his career. It's his 50th birthday, and he's sharing it with his identical twin brother, Franklin. He sees Franklin go into the bathroom, and sitting in Jackson's pocket are 2 vials, one with cocaine and one with rat poison, and he follows his brother inside. And then, like, you know, we get to see the tennis game, and we also get to see the kind of double-sided treachery that the two brothers have coexisted with for a long time. And then you never know what ending you're going to get because we have two different endings for each brother.
Well, unless you do know you could get all the endings, right? Because there is a tier. Endings. So I love this, and I actually don't think I've backed it. I keep meaning to. I will. Don't worry.
Shame, Brad. Shame.
I know. But like that, I was like, tennis. And then I was reading the Kickstarter page when it launched. I was like, oh, this is fucking awesome. Like,
yeah,
this is really cool. And so there's two different alternate endings. There's a flip book you can get as one of the rewards where you read it from one brother's perspective, right? And then you can flip it and read it from the other brothers.
Yep. That's my favorite version of the book.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I think it's super cool. It's super unique. You know, I thought about the movie Clue from the 90s.
Yeah.
Because they had alternate endings. You didn't know what ending you would get when you went to the theater.
Yep.
So this was like the perfect opportunity to do it.
I love that.
Yeah, that was something that really kind of intrigued me. And definitely, you know, the tennis thing was like, I don't know. But as I was reading the script, like almost immediately, I was like, oh, this is like some like Hitchcock stuff. And I'm like, okay, and we're gonna do this black and white. All right, let's see what we can do with this. And then like it was just kind of so twisted as I was reading it, and I just knew like this was gonna be a fun, unique kind of project.
Yeah.
Well,
let me go ahead, Jonathan.
I'm gonna say like the hidden joy that people get when they read the book is when they see how the pattern kind of rhythmic flow of how the game is incorporated throughout the story. Like what I wrote on a script, Ryan took to a completely another level, and I can't wait to hold it in my hands. That's always the best feeling.
Let's talk for a minute then about where this idea came from. How did you get this idea?
It just had sat in my mind for a while. I was at a party hall, like a country club, and I saw a nice bathroom, and I just kind of like started to think about twin brothers doing cocaine and one killing each other. And then, you know,
as you do,
when you're that kind of person. And then I started to think about Hitchcock more and Hitchcock's obsession with tennis, which I thought would give it it gives it action, which is really fun. And I just went for it. And then Ryan said yes. So I knew we were doing the right thing.
Yeah, there's something about that. As the intensity in the brothers' conversation picks up, as the intensity of the situation picks up, I could just see it between the panels, like the ball, you know, like bouncing back and forth. And as each person, you know, has a line and there's a retort or a quip, there's a snappy panel that, you know, that is from the game, you know, and just kind of as that sort of maliciousness builds, feeling that in the game that Jackson is playing in his head while he's trying to, you know, go about this kind of vile plan.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So Ryan, I do want to ask you, because I've wondered this. Okay, I've wondered this. Please forgive me. But so let me put it up here. The art. So this is some of the art on the Kickstarter page. You can see. You can also, I think, is it on the Kickstarter page, the link to get the 6-page preview?
The link is on there, I think. And
okay.
So I think the 6 pages are on there too.
Okay. Very good.
Read it
very
right
good.
There.
So this is the brothers, Jackson and Franklin. Okay, so this is a stupid question, but one that's just been in my head. So Jackson to me looks like President Andrew Jackson. Any inspiration there?
No, not intentionally.
I'm like,
not intentionally. No,
it's not terrible.
That's hilarious.
That is.
No, so kind of where that came from, where their design comes from is, well, one, a lot of it has to do with kind of like where the inspiration comes for some of the art. Mm-hmm. So because we were going black and white with it, and we were going for something that was a little more kind of suspenseful not necessarily action based or fighting based or anything. I I was looking at Alex Toth and looking at how he draws characters and stuff, and just kind of thinking about these two brothers. And the thing is, Alex Toth, he draws people, and a lot of times they look very charming and very beautiful. And I was kind of thinking like, well, these guys, they're not very beautiful. They're not charming people. They're both kind of scummy guys. And so just kind of thinking about those different, that personality trait and what kind of like living that sort of life would do to someone, 50 years down the road, where it's just like kind of on the edge of like falling apart, but they still kind of maintain appearances. And just kind of pulling some of those characteristics out, like the large nose for doing blow, the jowls for when they're grinning, and just kind of, thinking about that just in terms of like these characteristics that I can accentuate in the story. And then really kind of just thinking about, and this is, no slight, whatever, just thinking about the Paul brothers, and just kind of looking at instances of like twin brothers, or like brothers that are just kind of like always dishing on each other, always fighting. Yeah. And just kind of went in that direction.
I love that thought. Like I would have never like gone there. Obviously not an artist's brain in my head, but with the nose and the jowls, like that's awesome. I love hearing your thoughts there. That's amazing. So Jonathan's all of a sudden lost some light behind him. It's just because the sun's setting.
Nothing terrible.
No tornado coming. So let's talk about the process of putting a book together, because I've always wondered this and never really dug into this question of Ryan, you are where?
I'm in Michigan.
Michigan. And Jonathan, you are?
I'm in Connecticut.
So not next door neighbors. Let's talk about the process of putting a book together when you're several states apart. What was that process like for each of you? What were some really great moments, and not to break up a friendship, but maybe what were some of those frustrations?
That's interesting. I try and make sure we were all set up, and then I hope that I let Ryan just fly. That's always my goal.
Yeah. So at least for us, the way that we communicate, because, we're both in the States. It's not uncommon for people in comics to work with other people in other countries. But it really worked out for us because we're both on Eastern time. And, so, same sort of hours, and it's pretty casual, text, chatting, email. And just a little bit of back and forth. When we first, when we did one, Zoom meeting together prior to just kind of really talk and get to know each other and actually meet, put a face to a name. And it's just been kind of been going from there.
That's really cool. Really cool. You both strike me as very chill guys. And so I'm sure that is helpful.
Nobody got yelled at.
No, definitely not. I think with any team, like working with anyone, so like at least for me, like a big philosophy of mine is that comics are a synthesis of creators. So whether it's 2 people or whether it's 5 people working on a book, each person leaves their own little mark on it, and it works best when all the creators are able to kind of just like put their work together and let it blend. And at least we got very lucky just in how well we worked together.
We did. I think that was also something I learned pretty early on, was to just kind of let go.
Nice. I don't know if this is for one of you or somebody within the comments. Indie Spotlight series on Instagram says Mr. Boer, 7 seasons in a movie himself. Anything? No? Okay. I hope you're doing well, brother. Oh, maybe it's Bueller. Maybe that's what it's supposed to be. Sorry. Okay. Well, hey, Indie Spotlight series. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching, guys.
Explain yourself. No, I don't know. So what led to the decision? Jonathan, sounds like it was your thoughts here, and maybe stemmed from your references to Hitchcock. What led to you wanting to do it as a black and white series?
Reading a lot of
comic. It's not a series. It's
it's just the comic, yeah.
Yeah.
I was reading a lot of Stray Bullets, and we even curbed the same 8-panel grid to kind of give us our rhythm and keep it straightforward. Somewhere in like the middle of Stray Bullets, they become these weird, offbeat, just one-shot stories again. And I was really attracted to that idea of like telling a complete story in 24 pages that would fall into these guidelines. But then when I remembered the twins, which I had sitting at the back of my mind, I remember we could do 2 endings.
Awesome.
So I was at a push to the next level.
So your work on Nomads, Ryan, is I love the coloring in Nomads. And so how hard was it for you to switch from some of that coloring to doing a black and white series or comic book? I keep wanting to say series, but it's a one shot, right, guys?
Yeah, it's a one shot.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely always a challenge and something to consider. And actually, initially going into it, I knew it was going to be black and white, but I had actually planned on doing like grayscale. So and when I turned in the first couple pages to Jonathan, he said, "Let's go just black and white." And it was good because it kind of forced me, because I looked at it, I took away all my gradients and all my different shades and stuff. And I looked at it and I even told Jonathan, I was like, you know what, this looks kind of incomplete. I'm going to have to like go back at this and think about it a little bit differently. And I really went back and studied Toth and was looking at the way that he broke panels up and compositions up. Looked at the Hernandez brothers and their black and white comics. And because when you look at those, it doesn't even register in your mind that it's incomplete. But when you're making comics for color, at least myself and for Nomads, I tend to leave some stuff out for the colors to define. So whether that's textures on a rock or at certain action lines or shading and stuff, sometimes I'll leave that open and I'll fill that in with color. But for this, it was just a matter of using my black and white appropriately and creating gray with hatching and for the flashbacks in particular, during the tennis match, we opted to go with zip tone to kind of provide a little bit of like that film grain, give it a little bit more depth.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah,
Jonathan?
It looks great. It looks great. I remember when he first gave me those first couple pages and I saw the kind of digital layering that Ryan was doing. And I was just like, no, take it out. Just go hardcore. Just go all the way. And it looks beautiful.
More black.
Yeah, more ink. Yeah. Don't rely really on that computer. No, so it's great. It's, I can't say it enough. Like, anybody that backs this book is going to get a really awesome, unique book. And that's because of the partnership between us.
Well, let's talk about backing this book for just a minute. I'm going to drop the link in the comments section here. So if anybody wants to go back it, they have the link right handy. If you're on Instagram, sorry, Instagram doesn't do links in the chat. So go over to Facebook or YouTube. So let's talk about it for a minute. There's different versions of the book you can get via the Kickstarter. Tell us a little bit about the different versions. I think there's 3 different well, I guess maybe 4 different versions you can get, huh?
I think there's three core versions. You can pick a random ending.
Well, that's what I guess I mean. There's 2 endings.
Yeah, everything has a digital tier too. And you can also get our backlog of work like Nomads or Burn Residue or Tales from the Dead Astronaut in the add-ons section when you pick your tier. So you can get a random ending. We'll print out a bunch and we'll just toss a different one in an envelope for you. And who knows which brother lives for you. Then the next version is the comic is 24 pages in itself. So the next version is a 48-page version that we talked about before. You can kind of flip back and forth. And that's my favorite one because it's just fun to have that ability. And then the third option, that's the single. And then the next would be the flipbook version. And then we have the director's cut trade paperback version, which we'll load up with extra stuff. We'll kind of isolate the tennis game. We'll give you some back matter, show you some of our process stuff. I'm going to throw Ryan's thumbnails in there because they were beautiful. But that'll be a fun thing to put together. And I'm also, like, everything's going to be beautiful. You know, I'm very, like, tactile. I will overspend for better quality paper for everyone that backs.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Obsessive.
So I just dropped that link in the comment sections for YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Again, Instagram, if you're watching, you got to go search Kickstarter for A Game of Doubles, or go to one of the other ones, and it'll pop up there. So let's back away from A Game of Doubles for a minute. We'll come back to it before the end. But let's talk about indie comics more as a whole. What are you guys seeing out there, either projects or trends that you really like?
Oh, you can go first, Ryan.
Okay.
I feel like I cut everything off.
No, so right now, let's see. I mean, for myself, I'm always keeping my eye out for Kickstarter projects. Mm-hmm. One recently that I backed that I'm just like absolutely in love with is Apex, the Cybernetic Owl by Kenny Aiken. And one of the things that I notice in a lot of these projects is people are starting to do bootleg figures.
Yep.
And
that's cool.
It's something that's just like kind of amazing to me that now, like in this day and age, like we can, like us indies, like us small guys, we can actually get 3D printed action figures of our characters, which I mean, a lot of us probably started out just playing with action figures and making up our own stories. And so now, like, you can have a Hawk action figure to go along with your Nomads. And so that's very exciting to me. So that's something like in comics that I'm really loving. To connect that to actually a current ongoing project, Pop Scars is one, and they're doing
that one looks cool.
It looks absolutely gorgeous. Pat O'Malley, and it's cool kind of the colors are gorgeous. You know, that's one thing that I've been really loving about indie comics lately is just like the beautiful colors. It's definitely something that I keep on my mind, especially when I'm coloring my own books. And just really people have been raising the bar in terms of just like quality of printing as well. Like Jonathan had mentioned, and all those things, like, at least for me, and I think, you know, a lot of it has to do with, you know, just the circumstance of 2020 and 2021 and people having some of that time to kind of really go all out and pursue these passion projects. And I've been noticing more and more projects where sorry, I got my cat. He wants to say hello. More and more projects. Sorry, bud. More and more projects where I'm looking at them and I'm like, I don't want to miss out on this. And just really loving how the caliber has been rising just in terms of self-published.
Yep.
Yeah. So a lot of cool stuff out there. There really is. People are experimenting more. I think once there's definitely throughout the pandemic, there's definitely been a rise in indie creators realizing that they could just go to Kickstarter, where there's kind of a brand that will help bring an audience.
Sorry.
They do that.
I love it.
Yeah, he's hanging out.
The guest before, so I kind of like this is a first.
Anyway, sorry. Come on, bud.
What were we saying, Jonathan?
Cool. Just there's a lot of cool stuff out there.
There are. So you both brought up the pandemic, and Jonathan, you kind of jumped into this with the pandemic. Brian, you predated the pandemic, but really have been able to go into it full time during the pandemic. How do you think indie comics changes after COVID is done, if there is a done with COVID, but as things return back to normal? Do you think some of these creators who got into it during the pandemic are going to drop off because their time's eaten up again? Or do you think we're experiencing a new wave of indie creators that will continue?
Oh, it's a total new wave. It's like a whole nother generation of people who are coming up through a certain circumstance. No different than a lot of the comics that you know, like came out of like World War II and then like Cold War comics and stuff like that. Like just the world, at least for me, and I'm sure for other artists, circumstances that happen in the world have a huge impact on how we express ourselves. And I think, you know, with a lot of time on our hands, I wouldn't be surprised to see comic reading go up just in terms of, and popularity, just because kind of like this return to tactile media and just people really coming to enjoy those things in their spare time, rather than being pulled out of the house and in a bunch of different directions.
Yeah. I've been saying it's two things. It's when people were told that they couldn't buy comics anymore. You know, when Diamond shut down, people got agitated. Everything hopped up with Kickstarter. And now these people realize that they can make their projects on their own. They don't need anyone else to tell them yes.
And so that's another question, just as people sitting here musing together. Kickstarter has increased exponentially through 2020, the amount of comic projects. Do you think those projects, as cons kind of start to come back, like what are your guys' plans with cons? Are you going to continue to do Kickstarters and sling your books at cons, or
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah. So our big comic convention, Motor City Con. So I was all prepared to go all out with Nomads Volume 1 last year, but it got canceled and postponed. And they just announced dates for October. And I'm gonna go, you know, and I'm gonna I've been dying to go to a convention. Like I've been craving to meet people and you know, so long as everything is safe and everything like that, myself, I feel like there's probably a lot of anticipation and excitement to kind of get back to some of these activities. And from there, really just focusing on the convention circuit for 2022.
Buy Indie Comics Day official on Instagram says, I agree. We feel comic readership has grown in numbers and popularity during the pandemic than it had in a while. At least one good thing that came out of that nightmare. Yeah. I know a lot of people, as Diamond shut down, found their way to reading indie comics. But then with that also comes complaints about indie comics, right? We just did a story today on indiecomicsdispatch.com about what retailers look for before they stock an indie comic on their shelves. But then readers expect a certain thing too, because DC and Marvel has set them up for that, right? Regular issues. What do you guys see as the number one kind of roadblock for indie creators for winning more people over?
Probably just awareness. It's hard to, there's probably more people out there that would enjoy your book that have never even heard of you. And that's, you know, that's what bigger publishers give you. They give you that stage to get out there more.
Yeah, I think feeding the hunger for content is one of the hardest things, because especially for me, on a lot of projects, I'm a one-man team. And so it takes me 2 months to put out a full issue of something, like a full 24-page issue. If I'm doing everything, it takes me 2 months versus, you know, the 1 month or even bi-weekly that some of these larger conglomerates can put out. And not to mention the multitude of titles. Like I really can only work on 1 or 2 titles at a time, you know, versus the full buffet that is offered by the larger publishers.
Even if they're a little mediocre right now, the larger publishers.
Slips through the cracks. One thing that I really love, though, is I love seeing like quarterly books and stuff like Headlopper, where it is kind of like quality over quantity rather than I'm pretty sure it still does like monthly issues, but does like the trades and stuff like that. And I would really love to see if actually some more mainstream comics could do more of that. But I think it's like satisfying that binge nature is so hard.
It really is. But that's one of the things that I loved about Burn Residue, Jonathan, is you did the campaign. It was all funded, all 3 issues, but you delivered them once a month.
Yeah, we didn't get them once a month, but we're just
yeah.
about done. But art takes time, as Brian knows. It's you want it right.
Oh yeah.
Actually, digital backers are going to get that. Are going to get the whole thing on Friday, I think. Friday or Saturday. Yeah, it's done. It's
fantastic.
A beautiful monstrosity of a nightmare book. It's the only way I could describe it.
Ray says awareness is right. It's like hamburgers. Most people didn't know there was better hamburgers out there until they started getting exposed to them. Weird analogy, but I'm tired. I can see it.
Yeah, thanks, Ray.
I can totally get that. Let's go back to a game of doubles, and talk about it just a little bit more. What is we've talked about Jonathan, your favorite is the flip book. Ryan, I don't know that you've said what's your favorite reward for the Kickstarter.
So one of the things that I'm really stoked about is the pinup gallery that we have. So, and it's something that I did with Nomads as well, where we have other indie creators who have contributed art to go along with this one shot. And what I think is so cool about that is actually just being exposed to other contemporaries in this scene. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them are people who I talk to, who I've met, just over the last year or so. And I just think that's a tremendous thing. And it's just one of the cooler features. It's almost like getting alternate covers from some of your favorite indies.
Yeah, I really like that when I was scrolling through the rewards, just seeing, and we're here now. You call it the Rogues Gallery, I think, here, and it's just a lot of fun to see all the different creators that.
This one's awesome.
Yeah,
I love this one.
I'm going to put this together as an actual trading card for all physical backers. Yeah, we'll have back matter for it too. Yeah, it's just fun. Like, it's just people that we've all connected with who wanted to contribute and like give us a little boost,
Isn't that so cool about the majority of the indie comic community?
At least the people we talk to, you know what I mean? That's all that matters.
They'll just, because when we were running the campaign for Indie Comics Dispatch, we had several creators reach out and just be like, "Hey, can I add my book to your digital rewards?" I'm like, "Yeah, like,
no,
totally. Like, why would anybody ever say no to that? Like, yes,
the more the merrier."
Yeah, and just the amount of people, as I was preparing to do the Kickstarter, who gave us just really great, solid advice on how to do a Kickstarter, and you guys are echoing that same kind of support within the community. I know there's corners of the community that aren't supportive. Okay, I know we're not going to talk about those. We
don't
corners
deal with those people.
We don't deal with those people. And so, for the most part, the indie comic community is a fantastic community that I adore and have loved getting to know better. And I'm glad that when I saw this, the Rogues Gallery, I was like, that's really cool. And I was going to get to that question about kind of how that came about. But that's just all people that you've run into that have chosen to help support you guys in this.
I just shot them a message. I said, "Hey, do you want to do one?" They're like, "Of course."
That's so awesome. That's so freaking awesome.
You guys.
So the Kickstarter wraps up 8 days.
The final countdown.
The final countdown. You're almost a week left. That final week, things really start picking up a lot of times in Kickstarters. But you guys are most of the way there already.
Yeah, we're good.
What's going to be the turnaround time for delivery on this in your thought estimation?
In realistic thought, pretty quick. I mean, Brian's pretty much done with the book. Like, we probably have to go through some odds and ends.
Odds and ends, and just really getting the different versions all put together and ready for print.
Nice. I'm already sizing up what paper options. So pretty much once I know the final count for everything that we need, we'll be in pretty good shape.
I love somebody else who kind of geeks out about paper options. I'm totally that way.
I won't buy a book if it doesn't feel good.
That's amazing. So let's go to some lessons you've learned during this Kickstarter, because there's other indie creators out there that are either watching this now, they'll listen to it after the fact on the podcast. What are some lessons you've learned during this Kickstarter that maybe didn't come up during previous Kickstarters or have been time over time. Every Kickstarter, you're like, dang, this always happens, and I always forget to plan for this.
I mean, I learned on my first one not to stress out about it, because it's like, we're doing it either way. We'll get there no matter what.
Yep.
Like, the book is going to happen. So, you know, I know the audience will.
Uh-oh.
Dramatic pause.
Which is a foolish thought.
Oh, there he goes.
Foolish thought.
You froze up for just a second, Jonathan. So say that last thought again. Oh, I think you're frozen.
No, you guys froze up. Yeah, great.
There we go. I think you're back. Oh no! Every time I say that, I fuck it up.
Jinxed it.
Yep. Ryan, what did you learn?
What did you learn?
So for me, this is my first Kickstarter as a contributor, so being backup, and I am probably like a lot of other people in this business. I'm kind of a control freak, and so this has been a learning instance for me. Just kind of actually, that's not true. I have done other Kickstarters with people, but I've been less involved. I'm more so just like provided art, and then it just kind of went and flew. And this one I'm a little bit more involved with. And I guess for me, something just going forward is, and something I've noticed with other campaigns and stuff is them rotating out banners and assets like that. And so I guess a learning lesson for me is kind of, or just putting it out there for other creators, is make extra assets. Even if you don't use them all, make extras. They can come in handy for promotion. They can come in handy for spicing up the campaign. And admittedly, you know, we kind of knew what we wanted, and we went with it. And then, you know, 2 weeks in, we're like, you know, like, should we change some of this up? But we're rolling, you know. So it's just kind of one of those things where hindsight, I probably personally, would have created more art assets for the campaign.
Interesting. Very good, Jonathan. I think you're back now. I thought I saw your eyeballs moving a moment ago.
I can.
Oh man. So Jonathan's in Connecticut, in the area without internet.
It was so good up until
it was doing so great. Then the sun went down and his solar power ran out. Man. Are you there?
You all right, Jonathan?
I'm out here somewhere.
There he is. So let's talk a little bit about hold on. Ray commented also. He said, more seriously, people need a gateway drug from DC Marvel to indie comics. I agree. Mine was Pisker's X-Men Grand Design. I dug that, followed him on social media, and that was how I got into indie comics. That's amazing. Go. That's amazing.
That's one way to do it.
That sure is. Jonathan, while it looks like we got you still, what's a piece of advice you would give to a brand new creator that's just whatever? It doesn't have to be Kickstarter related. It can be anything. A piece of advice that you would give to somebody out there wanting to create their very first comic book.
I hope you're not waiting for my response.
Yes. We'll go to Ryan because we don't have Jonathan still. He keeps jumping in and out.
So what's advice for another creator trying to do Kickstarter?
Well, just a first-time creator. Doesn't have to be Kickstarter advice. Somebody out there creating their very first indie comic. What piece of advice would you give them?
Yeah. So and this has always been kind of a mantra of mine is kind of work up the stamina before you start like going into your magnum opus. Start with short stories, go small, work big, build up patience, and just kind of be kind to yourself when you're trying to make this stuff. Not everyone is able to jump into hundreds of pages of an epic. Even Nomad started with only 10 pages.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like a 10-page short, and that's how it started. And from there, now it's hundreds of pages. But starting off, go small, then work your way bigger.
I love that. I love that, especially because so many indie creators that I've talked to over the past year are trying to plot out their Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? They're trying to figure out how it all interconnects, and I'm going to have 10 issues and this and that. Jonathan, I think, is disconnecting to try to reconnect, by the way.
Okay.
I love that. Start small. That's so true. And so many people don't start there, and they get lost in their world, trying to plan it all out.
I also think it's important for creators to try different aspects of the medium. So, I know there's some people out there who would like to be just pencilers, or they only want to do the pencils, or they only want to do the inks. But I think it's important to kind of dabble in everything. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to master everything, but really learn those different aspects, because that's going to help you out tremendously if you need to collaborate. So if you're only an inker or you're only a writer, it would behoove you to understand what your companions are going through, or what it's going to take for them to execute what you're asking of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the huge thing, is the collaboration.
I agree. And I think gone are the days of the Marvel DC era where you could be just an inker, or you could be just a letterer. I think you're right that having those multi-skill sets in today's market are a great asset. And I mean, not everybody can learn to be an artist, but a lot of people can learn the skills of editing, of writing, of being a letterer, of even coloring.
Even just getting your book ready for print.
Yeah.
Just learning a little bit about those different processes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So Jonathan just messaged me. He said he lost his connection. He can't get back in.
Oh no. Okay. So we'll give him a few more minutes to try to join in.
Okay.
So we'll just keep talking indie comics for a minute and see what happens.
I'll let him know.
Very good. So that's one of the things out there with YouTube University, especially now, that a lot of people can learn a lot of different things. And you brought up a really good point about getting your book ready for print. A lot of people, I've heard this, hit a misstep. They get the book ready, they get the art, they get it lettered, they get it edited, they do the Kickstarter, and then they don't really know how to send it to a printer.
Yeah,
because printers speak different languages.
Yep, absolutely. And while it's difficult, so a huge part is the funding, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of people don't have the funds to experiment and try and fail, or so they think. But there's actually other ways of producing and printing a book, and this is something that is pretty common in underground comics and the zine world. Mm-hmm. And so if you're someone who wants to print comics and you want to make your superhero book, or you want to try to get it as close as you can to mainstream, it may sound kind of counterintuitive, but look at what the people who are making zines are doing. They are making tremendous books and stories with oftentimes darn near nothing, computer mm-hmm. paper and staples sometimes.
Yeah.
And just really see what the bare minimum is to get that book printed. And again, start small. And so that way, when you finally do get there and you finally do get the backing and the support of people, you don't drop the ball. Mm-hmm. Because especially when it comes to Kickstarter, reputation is very important.
Yeah.
It only takes one botched Kickstarter campaign for people to just kind of back away and say, you know what? Kickstarter is not for me. I'm just going to go to the stuff that's at the store. I'm not going to take the chance.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the problem too, that, I mean, I've been waiting on one campaign that was a done pre-order campaign that happened, right after Labor Day. And so the book was supposedly done already. It was a pre-order campaign. And I'm still waiting for my rewards for that. And a lot of people out there would do that and then just kind of walk away, be like, well, I tried indie comics and I paid for it and I never got anything.
Yeah. I have a similar anthology that I've been waiting on for going on 5 years now. I backed it in 2017.
Gosh.
And every couple moons, the creator comes out of a hole and they send an update. And and it's just kind of like, well, whatever. If something does come, cool. If something doesn't, that's fine.
Yeah.
But the other thing though that I think is really, really cool it's kind of exciting to me also, just in terms, because I just love kind of like looking at these projects, believing in these projects, and then like, will they, won't they, can they do this? What is it going to turn out like? And for me, it's less of a retail experience. You know, like when you go to a comic book shop, or you go to any sort of Walmart, Meijer, you have an expectation or a standard, and just kind of understanding that these are just regular people trying to make this thing. And it's really kind of, at least for me, blows my hair back when I get something that is better than, something that you could get in a comic book shop.
Yep.
And so, there's pros and cons to it. But all in all, it's super exciting to me.
Yeah. It kind of seemed like we were almost at the end of an age with comics, and now with Kickstarter and everything that you can do digitally, and then the pandemic kind of putting fuel to the fire, it's almost like we've entered another golden age of comics. That things are being revitalized. Print comics aren't dying. Print comics are being shipped by the thousands by indie creators. And digital comics are entering new realms where you could get digital comic along with a soundtrack, and like you said before, like with action figures. I mean, like we are truly in another golden age of comics, I feel. It's just independent comics. That
and because so many different people can make comics now, thanks to the internet, and we can collaborate with people worldwide, that there is no limit to the types of comics that can be made.
Yep.
It's not, I've had some people kind of scoff at me before, but it's the same thing that YouTube did for people making film, for us doing interviews, for it kind of opens the gates for people where there used to be gatekeepers and things that prohibited people from getting into it. But especially comics, not everyone, but a lot of us have the ability to upload stuff to the internet. A lot of us can interact through the internet. We can take a photo, and if you can find paper, a pencil, and you can take a photo, you can make a comic and get it out to people. And I think like just that aspect, and it doesn't even have to be fancy. There's been plenty of web comics that have done really fantastic, on a shoestring budget and gone huge. I mean, even like One Punch Man was, just some guy who wasn't necessarily the greatest artist in the world, but ends up creating this series that is massive and beloved. And I to me that's so exciting, and just like you said, it's a whole new golden age of making comics.
So give some shout outs. We'll give Jonathan just another minute, but we're almost at an hour. And so give some other shout outs to some creators that you think people should be following right now. Yeah.
So like I mentioned, Pat O'Malley with Pop Scars, they have a campaign going on right now. That's already funded. It's tremendous. The other one he just launched yesterday, Tony McMillan with Attaboy.
We just posted something on Indie Comics Dispatch about it. That looks amazing.
And this thing looks so sweet to me, and it scratches the itch. So you had asked earlier, how did I get into making comics and stuff? And one of my earliest memories is Mega Man, right? And so they used to have these instruction manuals with the characters inside of them, and I would copy those characters, right? And so when I saw Tony's premise for this, it immediately hit me. Like, I got goosebumps right now just thinking about it, because it's such a cool idea. It's this comic book that looks like an instruction manual. And this is Tony's third book that I've backed. He had Serious Creatures and then Lumen prior to that. And his art is kind of outside, kind of outsider art, but just really cool to look at. And he's also a phenomenal writer too. So I'm really excited for Attaboy. Another creator who I've been following. So there's a series called Blue Boy Brown Comics by David Greg Taylor, and he is in the middle of a campaign for his third book. And it's kind of he's an older creator. He used to do comics in the 70s. He left comics, and he came back just recently with the advent of Kickstarter.
Oh, cool.
And so so something that's been really cool to me is kind of seeing seeing this kind of retro style comic come back, and just been following that. It takes place during the Civil War. Beautiful pencils and watercolor art. Neat. And just another really cool creator that I've been following.
There's your cat again.
Yep, Ed has come back.
I love it.
Yep, he's hanging out. You know, so another I got one more for you.
Yeah.
Someone who I really want to shout out. His name's Rick Lopez. And he goes by Doom Dazed on Instagram.
Oh yeah.
And he has a series called The Power. And this comic is so sweet. He's kind of like pulling into like the Scott McCloud, kind of like really thinking about and internalizing like what a comic book is, and really just kind of going all out with the visuals. And if you take a look at some of his art, his series The Power is definitely up there. I'm waiting for issue number 2. Super excited. He also has a weekly strip that he does called Cosmic Cat, and it's kind of like Spaceman Spiff, kind of like this. I think like Star Fox, because I play a lot of video games, and just kind of like a really cool black and white strip that kind of takes me back to Sunday Comics, and just an awesome, phenomenal, cool guy.
That's really cool. I always love hearing different people's answers, because half the time I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot I followed that person. Like,
yeah,
Doom Days for a second. I'm going to go look them up in a minute.
There's so much out there, and it just kind of ebbs and flows, right? Because like we all kind of go through periods of making stuff, and then like you promote, and then you disappear and you go back to making stuff.
Yep. Well, very good. Well, it doesn't look like Jonathan's going to be able to rejoin us. We're at about an hour. So I'm just going to go back and share the campaign up here and pop it back into the chat again on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Not Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. That is there. Game of Doubles by Jonathan Thompson and Ryan Tavarez.
Yep, there you
go. My mind always wants to go to how I mispronounced it for so long.
That's okay.
So it is there, and you guys can still go back. That 8 days left on the campaign.
8 days,
really cool concept. You're gonna do this because it's a great concept. It presents at first like it's all about tennis. It is not all about tennis. Sounds like a phenomenal story with twists and turns in it that I can't wait to read. I'm gonna back it and get the probably the flip book because I'm a sucker. So I'm going to go check that out in a minute. Ryan, thank you for being here. Thank Jonathan for being here. His connection crapped out. We're not sure. The alien invasion may be starting in Connecticut. Who knows? But
I welcome our new alien overlords.
Yeah, we bow down to thee. Thank you for being here, and thank you on Jonathan's behalf also for being here. And everybody out there, go follow Jonathan Thompson Space Station Z on Instagram. Follow Ryan, his handle's right there and his name, and then go back a Game of Doubles, because again, it just sounds like just this fantastic project. Any parting words you want to plug?
I just really appreciate you having me back. I can't wait until we talk again. Yeah. And yeah, just please, guys, check out a Game of Doubles. Don't let the tennis deter you. It's so much darker than tennis.
I love that. So much darker than tennis, and tennis can get pretty dark. Everybody out there, we are back again next week. We have Black Sands Entertainment / Publishing. That's a question for them. I don't know what they go by now. I've seen both. They're going to be out here. They got their new app that's been ranking, just top in all sorts of categories and pulling in new comic creators that are listing on there. So we have them on next week along with a couple other special guests, and then we're ending the week with another Concrete Week. Last year we did this fun week with the guys at Concrete Comics. We did
cool.
They are so cool and so much cooler than I will ever be. And so we did this week last week called Concrete Week, and we're doing another Concrete Week. Well, there, Alonzo will be on Business of Comics with Chris from Homebrewed Comics, and then we'll have all the guys on broadcast from the Dispatch to end our season 1 lineup. And so again, we're taking July off, shipping Kickstarter rewards, fulfilling Kickstarter rewards digitally also, and then we're coming back with season 2 in August. So Ryan, Jonathan, hopefully still out there watching if you can. Thank you guys for being here. Everybody out there, go back Game of Doubles. It's still on Kickstarter for 8 more days. Until next time.